For the first time in the contemporary history of the Middle East, the unimaginable is occurring. It's not about tanks crossing borders or planes flying across the sky. It's about something much more basic to a nation's survival. Its people are departing, and its economy is draining out. In the previous 2 weeks, over 100,000 people have allegedly departed, not from Gaza nor from the West Bank, but from Israel. And the mechanism propelling this exodus isn't simply the roar of ballistic missiles, but the quiet, grinding pressure of financial ruin. We are experiencing a new sort of siege, one where the weapon is a precise attack, and the target isn't a military facility, but a nation's financial account. This is the tale of how a barrage of missiles has prompted a cascade of insurance claims, business flight, and economic shockwaves that threaten to reshape the balance of power in the Middle East. To grasp what's occurring today, you have to go beyond the classic photos of Iron Dome interceptors lighting up the night sky. For decades, the strategic premise was that any future conflict would be settled by conventional forces battling in open ground. But the warfare we're witnessing now is different. It's an asymmetric conflict waged not over inches of territory, but for the psychological and economic endurance of a country. The initial shot in this new fight didn't come from a tank column, but from an unexpected source. A piece in the Jerusalem Post, one of Israel's own English-language publications. The facts it gave was striking. In the first 11 days of this escalation, the Israeli tax authorities was swamped with nearly 9,000 applications for damages. But they aren't simply numbers on a spreadsheet. Each claim represents a house with a hole in the roof, a company reduced to ruins, a family automobile converted into a twisted piece of scrap metal. Let's break down the harm. According to the assessment, nearly 65,000 structures were destroyed. Think about what it implies for a moment. That's not simply a statistic. It's thousands of families uprooted inside their own nation. It's the expense of temporary housing, of rebuilding, of lives placed on wait. But the astonishing amount is the vehicles, more than 10,000 of them wrecked. In a nation as relatively tiny and heavily populated as Israel, personal automobiles aren't a luxury. They are a lifeline to employment, to schools, to normality. When you demolish 10,000 automobiles, you aren't simply destroying metal and glass. You're harming the everyday operation of a civilization. The extent of the destruction speaks to a unique and scary weapon, the cluster munition. We aren't talking about single huge warheads meant to crush a structure. The missiles utilized in this campaign are intended to spread dozens, often hundreds, of tiny bomblets across a large region. Imagine a single rocket arcing above a metropolis. Just as defenses attempt to intercept it, the warhead opens, unleashing a storm of explosives that spread over streets, parking lots, and residential districts. Each bomblet, weighing barely a kilogram or two, is very hard to intercept once disseminated. The Iron Dome is meant to intercept a few incoming rockets, not hundreds of small, fast-descending submunitions. This explains how a claimed 600 missiles might trigger over 42,000 different siren alarms throughout the nation. Every bomblet hit is a possible trigger, a moment of panic, a new address for an insurance claim. This is when the conflict moves from the physical to the economic. Insurance firms are the canaries in the coal mine for a nation's stability. They are based on estimating risk. When such risks become unexpected and catastrophic, the whole system seizes up. The claims flooding in for damaged buildings and wrecked automobiles constitute a liability that goes into the billions of dollars. Now, you may assume a nation's treasury can manage a few billion in payments, but this isn't just about the government sending a check. This is about the private sector. Large multinational firms, the lifeblood of any contemporary economy, monitor these data. They perceive the trend. They analyze the likelihood of their offices being struck, their supply lines interrupted, their workers being terrified to come to work, and they make a cold, calculating choice. We are already hearing rumors of significant firms divesting, moving funds out before they face even greater losses. Capital is notoriously nervous. It hates uncertainty more than it dislikes taxes. This produces a severe feedback cycle. The rocket assaults inflict physical harm. The physical damage leads to insurance claims and an impression of instability. That impression drives capital flight. As corporations depart, they take employment with them. The shekel weakens. The cost of importing food and gasoline soars. The government is thus obliged to borrow more money at higher interest rates to pay for rebuilding and defense, severely stressing the national budget. The economy starts to fall under its own weight. a process some economists are now plainly calling the route toward bankruptcy. The epicenter of this economic catastrophe is Tel Aviv. As the country's financial and technological heart, it's also the most exposed. When sirens howl above Tel Aviv, they aren't simply upsetting a metropolis. They are disturbing the motor room of the nation's economy, the startups, the venture capital companies, the high-tech centers. This is where Israel's economic miracle was constructed. But a miracle is hard to maintain when you're spending your days in a bomb shelter. The concentration of claims from the Tel Aviv region implies that this economic warfare has a definite strategic objective: to target the country where it is most vulnerable, not its military sites, but its financial center. And then there's the human aspect, the one that genuinely indicates the severity of the issue. For decades, the image of the Jewish people in the public Western consciousness has been one of fortitude in the face of displacement, of constructing a home after generations of traveling. But today we are experiencing the opposite. Reports show that approximately 100,000 persons with dual nationality have invoked their final insurance policy. They've departed. They've exercised their choice to have a second house, a second passport, a second existence overseas. This is the last devastating metric. A country may repair structures. It may even, over time, attract fresh investment. But a loss of trust in the future so deep that its residents opt to leave is a wound that takes centuries to repair. It conveys to the world that the safest haven for your family, for your children's future, is no longer here. So where does this leave us? The immediate military clash is one thing, but the shadow war, the economic struggle, is only starting. If this rate of destruction and capital flight continues, the unwritten red line isn't a nuclear facility, it's a credit rating. It's the point when the cost of borrowing to protect the country surpasses the nation's capacity to pay. For Iran, this marks a strategic success obtained not via conquering but through attrition. They have proved that their missiles can reach every part of Israel, not only the thinly inhabited border regions. They have demonstrated they can overcome its air defenses, not with overwhelming numbers, but with technologies meant to confound the defensive system's logic. And they have proved they can inflict a degree of economic devastation that reverberates well beyond the original explosion radius. The world community observes, and the calculus alters. The Abraham Accords, the normalization of relations with Arab states, were established on a basis of strength and stability. But strength and stability are costly things. If Israel is perceived as a problem rather than an advantage, if it becomes an economic sinkhole rather than a high-tech partner, those connections will be challenged as never before. The final turning point in this battle may not come from a peace treaty or ceasefire arranged in some European city. It may come from a simple, stark understanding in the boardrooms of New York and London that this little besieged country has become a risk that is no longer worth taking. The missiles are still dropping, but the true war for Israel's destiny is now being waged claim by claim in the silent, desperate arithmetic of its own economy. And in that struggle, there is no Iron Dome. This is Daily Report. Please let us know in the comments if you found today's video useful or not. Also, tell us whatever subject you would want us to explore in the future video. If you loved this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss any of our forthcoming videos. Take excellent care of yourself, and thank you for watching.